The Iranian Guard launched a new wave of attacks as part of Operation True Promise 3, which hit critical Israeli facilities and several areas of Tel Aviv. And the group of 7 leaders arrived in Canada for a summit where they will consider whether to take a common stance as violence intensified between Israel and Iran. And in the United States, the suspect in the assassination of the Democratic congresswoman Melissa Hortman and her husband was detained. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Stay with us. The Iranian Guard launched a new wave of attack as part of Operation True Promise 3, which hit critical Israeli facilities and several areas of Tel Aviv. On Sunday, the Iranian army attacked with hypersonic missiles the Haifa Tower plant, as well as the chemical complex of the Basan company and the refinery located in the same city, which had to suspend operations. In Tel Aviv, multiple buildings were reported hit, while in Ramat Gan, a 22-floor building was destroyed. In addition, the attacks caused widespread blackouts in the central part of occupied Palestine. Islamic Republic's attacks come in response to Tel Aviv's recent aggressions against the nation's nuclear program, senior military and residential areas. And the Iranian Revolutionary Guard confirmed the assassination of its intelligence chief, Mohammad Qasemi, and his assistant Hassan Mohakek as part of Israeli air attacks against the Iranian territory. The Iranian agency reported a series of missile operations against Israeli intelligence centers. In this context, the assassination of intelligence commander Mohsen Bagheri was also reported. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard also confirmed that it will continue effective operations against vital targets in Tel Aviv until their complete elimination as part of Operation True Promise 3, launched by the Persian nation in response to the escalation of the Israeli offensive against its territory. And in Iran also, President Masoud Pezeshkian reiterated his condemnation of recent Israeli attacks on military centers, nuclear facilities, and residential areas. In a speech delivered during a parliamentary session in Tehran, the Iranian president emphasized that the country has no intention of developing nuclear weapons, as this would contradict the nation's religious beliefs. However, he reiterated that Iran will defend its right to use nuclear energy for peaceful purposes and carry out nuclear research. He also condemned the United States' complicity in recent Israeli attacks on Iran, denouncing Washington's resort to intimidation as a violation of international norms. He called for people to unite to put an end to these aggressions and crimes perpetrated by the West. After a new wave of attacks carried out by Iran, the Israeli criminal regime was forced to close its largest oil refinery. Authorities also reported that at least 7 people were killed and 90 injured after the Persian country's response. Some of the Iranian missiles hit different localities, including Tel Aviv, Haifa, as well as Kiryat Gat and Sde Osaya, located in the south of the occupied territories, generating blackouts, chaos, and alert throughout the country. Most command and control systems of the Zionist regime were disrupted by advanced methods and improved technical capabilities, while authorities report destruction and fires in much of the territory, and the 3 main Israeli air bases, Nevatim, Tel Nov, and Ofda, were successfully attacked. And in various regions of the world, citizens joined the global march for Gaza, demanding a permanent ceasefire and pressuring governments that collaborate with the Zionist regime. In Mexico, demonstrators marched to demand an end to the violence in the Gaza Strip and the breaking of diplomatic relations with Israel. Protests took place in Mexico City, starting at the emblematic Angel of Independence and continuing along the main avenue, where those present demonstrated their solidarity with the Palestinians. They also called for peace and reiterated their rejection of the genocidal actions of the criminal Israeli regime. And in Pakistan, hundreds of supporters of the Islamic Revolution and the Resistance Front demonstrated in rejection of Israel's criminal actions against Iran and Palestine on Sunday night, waving Palestinian flags and carrying placards demanding to stop supplying arms to Israel. During the march to the United States Consulate General in Pakistan, those present condemned the international community's silence in defense of the aggressions committed by Israel against the countries of the region.
The only solution to Israel's oppression is that every Muslim in the world stands with Iran and be ready for war, for the rights and the liberation of Palestine, and to stop Israel's oppression. The oppression and brutality that Israel has committed against Iran must end, and the international community must propose a punishment for it so that Israel does not attempt to destroy any country in the future like Israel did with Gaza.
And in Greece, thousands of people gathered at the Syntagma Square and outside the embassy of Israel in Athens against the Zionist genocide in the Gaza Strip.
We are here today to express our unwavering solidarity with the Palestinian people, who have been enduring a crime against them for 77 years and now face a tragic climax. We stand with Palestine until the end, so that it is free and all countries are free.
Now we have our first break coming up. Remember, you can join us on our TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. And the G7 leaders began arriving Sunday in the Canadian Rockies for a summit where they will consider whether to take a common stance as violence intensifies between Israel and Iran. Security personnel and helicopters were posted near the G7 summit site in the mountain towns of Kananaskis, the Canadian Rockies, as heads of states including U.S. President Donald Trump, European Union Commission leader Ursula von der Leyen, United Kingdom Prime Minister Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron start arriving for the three-day gathering. In this context, the leaders of Canada, the United Kingdom and Germany arrived in Calgary ahead of the G7 summit before taking a helicopter to the actual summit site in Kananaskis, Alberta. The G7 summit will be held since June 16th to June 17th. The Group of Seven is one of the world's most influential political and economic forums, bringing together the world's leading industrialized powers to coordinate policies and address global challenges. This year, 2025, the organization celebrates the 50th anniversary of its first summit. The G7 is currently composed of 7 countries: Canada, the United States, Japan, Germany, the United Kingdom, France, and Italy. The European Union will also attend, as well as other heads of states who are not part of the organization. And in this context, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer meets Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni for his first bilateral ahead of the G7 summit. The meeting provided an opportunity for an in-depth discussion on the most pressing issues on the international agenda, starting with the situation in the Middle East and the conflict in Ukraine. During the meeting, a close coordination regarding both the G7 agenda and the NATO summit in The Hague also continued, with a full convergence of views being noted. Lastly, the two leaders reviewed the main areas of bilateral collaboration, especially in the fields of energy, investment, and security and defense, as well as the increasingly fruitful cooperation in fighting human trafficking.
Yes, on migration, we've got a lot to discuss.
Yes,
there.
a lot to discuss.
And also in Canada, hundreds of people gathered in downtown Calgary to protest against the G7 summit. Many of the demonstrators expressed their disagreement with U.S. President Trump's presence in Canada after he had been advocating for the idea of annexing the country for months. Some 400 people subsequently marched through downtown Calgary, which led to the closure of several streets. Former Canadian Parliament member Charlie Angus launched a campaign for the government to ban Trump from entering the country, calling him a convicted felon and a sexual predator. The meeting's host, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, is scheduled to hold a bilateral meeting with Trump on Monday morning before the formal start of the summit sessions.
When he was debating with everybody, feels like you guys are just.
In our news, in Italy, a couple of dozen protesters unfurled a banner Sunday in Venice calling for a halt to new hotel beds in the lagoon city. Organizers underlined that nearly 17,000 tourist beds had been added to the city of Venice since 2017, despite a hotel block in the historic center adopted that year by the city. The protesters moved unobtrusively from the first stop in Troncheto, an island not covered by the hotel block, where a 648-room hotel has recently opened and where another is being built, to the Calle dei Guardiani structure. Details of the protest weren't advertised and it was kept small and non-confrontational.
Questo è il complesso di Calle dei Guardiani.
This is the Calle dei Guardiani complex that was taken over by Delta Real Estate. When it was taken over, there were 18 apartments inside. It had also been a public housing complex in the past. Then it had several changes of ownership. Delta Real Estate took it over and evicted the last remaining resident tenants, among other things, starting renovation work while the elderly residents were still inside. From 18 apartments, they took over 33 units, all for tourist rentals.
Questo è il primo albergo che ha aperto Hampton Bay.
This is the first Hampton by Hilton chain hotel to open. 648 beds on an island that was one of the few places of potential urban transformation and could have hosted investment to implement services for residents, which the city notoriously lacks.
We now have our second break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our website, our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final break, we'll be right back. Welcome back. The suspect in the assassination of the U.S. Democrat Congresswoman Melissa Hortman and her husband was captured. Law enforcement officials said Vance Bolter, 57 years old, was arrested on Sunday following a two-day manhunt in a Midwestern state. Bolter allegedly shot two Democratic lawmakers and their spouses early on Saturday morning in what officials believe was a politically motivated attack. Melissa Hortman, a state representative, and her husband Mark were killed in the attack, while State Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette were injured. Lieutenant Colonel Jeremy Geiger of the Minnesota State Patrol said Bolter surrendered to the police without any use of force. Five people were killed and three went missing in northwestern Virginia when flash floods caused by heavy rains hit the United States. The authorities reported that rescue efforts were underway on Sunday to find three missing individuals. They also indicated that between 6 and 10 centimeters of rain fell in just half an hour on Saturday night, prompting an almost immediate influx of emergency calls for trapped individuals. Governor Patrick Morrisey declared a state of emergency in Ohio County. And in Peru, the number of fatalities rose to 17 and at least 5 people were injured as a result of the 6.1 magnitude earthquake that shook the province of Callao on the central coast of the country. The National Emergency Operations Center reported that the earthquake caused damage to at least 7 health centers and collapsed houses in the district of Mi Peru. According to the official notice, the delegation found that in the green coast areas of the districts of Miraflores, San Isidro, Magdalena, and San Miguel, there were landslides of rocks and earth from the cliffs. Authorities remain in the affected areas for rescue and damage assessment and emphasize that there is no danger of tsunami. And in this sense, the Peruvian President Dina Boluarte went to the National Emergency Operations Center to monitor the attention after the 6.1 magnitude earthquake registered on Sunday morning. Boluarte was accompanied by the head of the National Institute of Civil Defense, Juan Carlos Ocariegui Reyes, as well as by the President of the Council of Ministers, Eduardo Arana. After the meeting at the National Emergency Operations Center, the head of state went to Costa Verde in the district of Miraflores to inspect the area and assess possible damages. She informed that she will continue to travel along the coast to supervise directly the damages caused by the earthquake, which was felt with intensity in Lima and Callao. And Venezuela is preparing for new constitutional elections, this time to renew the 335 municipal mayors and legislative councils throughout the country. Let's see more with Madeline Garcia.
La candidata que llevará la rienda de la revolución bolivariana.
El chavismo ya anunció sus candidatos escogidos en Asamblea Popular.
Chavismo has already announced its candidates chosen in the Popular Assembly for the mayor's offices throughout the country. These are the last elections, and with them, the constitutional cycle for the renewal of public offices is closed.
Bueno, el sector de la oposición hizo lo que siempre ellos hacen, pues.
A sector of the opposition did what they always do, because as they are not candidates, they're called for abstention. That opposition sector that has no command, now we are going to elections that will allow us to decide 335 mayors and 2,471 maid councilors, and the other victory of May 25 was peace in all the national territory. There was not a single event to regret.
The Democratic Opposition also announced its candidates. One of these political parties, COPEI, rejected calls for abstention from the extreme right, which is once again involved in a corruption scandal that exploded in Spain.
Que sigan diciéndole al país que se ha logrado con la abstención. Que se ha capitalizado con la abstención.
That they continue telling the country what has been achieved with the extension, what has been capitalized with the extensions, sectors that have led to the extension, but have also taken the opportunity and accompanied the request in some cases of sanctions and blockades. Look what just happened yesterday. The Public Prosecutor's Office has just issued a self-indictment again to Juan Guaido. But why? Because of the Goldo Gate, that is, that the great business that was being developed in Spain with a lobby of 500,000 euros a month of money that was coming out of Venezuelan state, from that money that is being held back. And I'm sure that if you take all those resources and all these mayors, and the ones that are absent that could not attend this activity, they would make an excellent effort.
President Nicolás
Maduro asked them to be fully prepared in order to consolidate the revolutionary project.
Estamos en puertas de una campaña electoral. Ya, ¿cómo que dice la frase? El velo ha sido.
We're at the door. It is an electoral campaign. What does people say? The veil has been... The mystery has been unveiled. We have 335 candidates for the 335 mayorships in the country. The veil has been torn, and the mystery has been revealed, and we have set the goal of winning all 335 mayoralities. If they are careless in Chacao, Eratillo, Baruta, Lecheria, and others, we are going to win them. We are going to win them.
Soon the electoral campaign will begin. The elections will be held on July 27th. That day, the youth will also vote for their priority projects in the communities and the birthday of Comandante Chávez. And 1 year of the re-election of President Maduro will be celebrated.
Madeline Garcia, TeleSUR, Caracas, Venezuela.
Thousands of people marched in Colombia's main cities on Sunday in protest against the attack on right-wing presidential pre-candidate Miguel Uribe, who is hospitalized in intensive care. The 39-year-old senator was shot 3 times during a public act in a popular neighborhood of Bogotá last Saturday. The demonstrations also spoke out against the recent escalation of violence that has plagued several regions and attributed to criminal groups outside the law, which left at least 8 people dead and more than 80 wounded in the southwest of the country. Police have already arrested 3 people allegedly involved in the crime. With this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.